Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode, a solo episode again. You guys, I say this all the time, but I look at the data and the analytics, and thank you so much for listening to the solo episodes. This always makes my day. It warms my heart in such a humbling way. But anyways, I just wanted to bring one quick thing up before we get to today's topic, which is all about emotion regulation, nervous system regulation, the difference between the two, and why you need both and how they interact. And it's actually going to be very helpful for you, the parent, because I'm going to talk about it more in the context of our reactions. But everything I'm describing in terms of just the science of it is very true for kids too. So we'll be able to kind of unpack it and see it through those two different lenses. But before we get to that, I wanted to let you guys know that I am selling my bundle. And the bundle is my not three, but the four most popular courses that I have hosted throughout the years that you guys ask for time and time again. I've put them all together. So now instead of it being three, it used to be three courses. It was called the Calm Essentials Bundle. Now I'm just calling it the bundle because I'll kind of keep adding to it as we go. I'll let it keep evolving and growing. But it is four courses. The four courses are Getting Your Kids to Listen the First Time You Ask, Tackling Tantrums Masterclass. This is where we get really into emotion regulation, what to do, how to respond during a tantrum, or any type of emotional dysregulatory moment. The third one is How to Connect with Your Strong-Willed Kids. And the fourth one is really all about PAR, how to manage your reactions and how to deeply understand which reaction type you are. There are four specific reaction types that I talk about in other episodes. I talk about it in that workshop. And then you have to identify sort of the way it is that you react to certain situations, really without judgment. And you'll be able to pinpoint and see some patterns in the way you do things. And the language that I share in there is really helpful. I have a lot of families that I coach who talk a lot about the reaction types and how it really helps them map out some of the patterns and some of their triggers. So all four of those are bundled together. I also included brand new bonuses that go with all the courses. So my favorite one, and I was really reluctant to do this, but you guys asked me for so many. There have been so many times you guys have asked me to make scripts for you guys, and I'm always like, oh, but it's so hard. And a lot of times I'm saying, don't say anything, but I do understand the need to have something to fall back on. So I created scripts for what to say outside of the moment, what to say in the moment, what to say if it's a really big, hairy tantrum, what to say if it's kind of just starting. And I'm really pleased with the scripts that are in there. I think you're going to find them really, really helpful. And it just walks you through sort of the different phases of emotional dysregulation and what scripts would be most advantageous so that your child essentially feels seen, but you can also still hold that boundary in a very steady way without having to get too wordy or over explain or resort to some of the methods that you're probably doing without even realizing that it could be making things worse. So those are the four workshops. They're all bundled together. I'm going to link it in the show notes if you guys want to grab that. It's available for the next 2 weeks. Actually, I'm not sure on the date when this is coming out, but it should be live when you're looking at it. So make sure to grab it. I take the bundles, I work with them, and I try to do it every few times a year where I sell a bundle to everybody, because one of the questions that I do get asked frequently is like, if coaching just doesn't work for us, which I do understand, like what are some other resources we could use? And so when I'm thinking of creating things like bundles, I am really intentional about trying to cover a lot of the bases that I would cover in coaching, but giving you the tools to really do it in a more self-paced way. And that what I really love about it is like a lot of people will tell me when they get the bundle, they kind of do it with their partner, and it feels like a great way to tackle some of those challenges together instead of being against each other. So I think there's just so much advantage to having access to tools, frameworks, courses, bonuses, scripts, strategies in the moment. There are cheat sheets in there so you guys can print it out and just put it right on your refrigerator so you know what to do in the moment. I really, really highly recommend it. I tried to keep it at a really reasonable price point so that you have access to a lot of great frameworks for a lot of different challenges, and you can kind of pick and choose depending on the moment of parenting that you're in, what seems to work best. Okay, so let's jump into it. Emotion regulation, nervous system regulation. These two terms are very buzzy right now. It's really funny to me because working with kids and in the space of kids for 20 plus years, these are terms we've used very frequently, and they're terms that I've used frequently. And so to hear how much recognition and how much buzz it's getting right now is really it's actually really great. Like, it makes me happy. It makes me a little sad that we haven't been talking about it for longer, but at the same time, I welcome it because this is a really important conversation. I think, Lewis Howes said it. I've said it on another podcast episode, but if there's one skill, we can hope that every person develops in their lifetime, especially once they enter adulthood. It's the ability to regulate their emotions. It's really the thing that helps us connect. It helps us move through relationships with more steadiness. It helps us make better choices. It keeps us out of precarious situations that we don't want to be in. It allows us to build self-trust. It allows us to really explore and feel the richness of life. We're not running from emotions, but we're really experiencing the depth of all of them and giving ourselves tools to move through them and to really allow those things to teach us. I always say that the magic is in the contrast. I can only feel real immense joy and happiness because I've known sadness in my life. I've known darker days. I've known moments where things sting and things hurt and things feel frustrating. So when something feels very satisfying and there's ease to a process, I am so grateful. And it's because I've had the contrast, and our kids need the same thing. So let's jump into it. So I want to start first with emotion regulation. And I want to explain the distinction between that and nervous system regulation. And then I'm going to talk about how they intertwine and why we need both. And then I'm going to give you examples, and I want to share where and how you want to consider this when it comes to your kids. So emotion regulation, this is how I think of emotions, is like feelings in motion, right? We feel something. But what I want you to take away from this episode is that we want to think of emotion regulation as a top-down approach, meaning it's more cognitively based. It's in our mind, essentially, meaning we have to sort of process and understand what thoughts we're having about the feeling we're feeling. It's the interpreter, more or less. So our ability to regulate our emotions is going to require, to some extent, our mind to get on board so we can start to sift through and consider and think about the way we're perceiving the feeling, the way we're naming it, what we're doing about it, and how we're moving through it. So emotion regulation really requires sort of a top-down approach in that we are thinking about the experience. So in a real kind of simple example, you might have a very specific trigger around, like this comes up a lot with parents that I coach, so I'll use this one. But some kids, the minute they're faced with some form of frustration, they scream. And it is like a blood-curdling scream. You probably know what I'm talking about. And it is very terrifying. It's one of those moments where you think you're going to look in the room or walk over to your child and like find blood all over the place. Like you are picturing the worst case scenario. And 9 out of 10 times it's because like the puzzle piece didn't fit the way they wanted it to or something. But the reaction is so big from them that it elicits this big response. Now we're going to talk a little bit about nervous system regulation, because this is a big moment where I would tell you your nervous system is completely dysregulated in that moment. But the emotional regulation piece is like once we've had a second to stabilize, then we can process and think about what were those big emotions I was experiencing? What was happening to me? So let's say it's an argument with one of your kids. Let's say they're fighting you on something and there's a lot of protest, and maybe it starts to turn dark and they start to say rude things, and you fight back with them, and it's a moment you don't love. And so when you look back at the emotion of that, or even in it, while you're in it, you're probably feeling things like frustration. You're feeling things like discontent. You're feeling things like sadness that this is happening. There's likely a story attached to some of those emotions, like, what kind of a parent am I if my kid will speak to me in this manner? What kind of a parent allows A, B, and C? Clearly, I've done something wrong, right? So we can see these little stories, these insecurities attached to certain behaviors, which elicit certain emotions in us. And then as a result, it's very hard to regulate because we can't find our footing. It all feels so hard. So that's the work of emotion regulation, is really sitting with these emotions, really tackling the stories that we're telling ourselves and being able to move through it and find some type of a solution that feels much more applicable. So when we're faced with these emotions time and time again, we just have better tools to manage them. That's also true for your kids. So the difference is that most of us were raised in a time where you didn't get to feel your feelings, more or less. So if you were experiencing quote unquote harder emotions, we'll call those the impermissible emotions, such as anger, sadness, anything like that, you usually either suppressed it because you didn't want to get in trouble, or you went ahead and expressed it and then did meet some type of a punishment and felt then disconnected from your caretakers. So there's a lot of different ways this plays out for us, but ultimately we were just taught to feel this way is bad, and it's even worse if you're going to express this in a way that's too bold, too big, whatnot. Okay, so now when we know that, when we think about emotion regulation as a top-down approach, some of the things we want to hold on to are like processes that we can put into practice that are going to help us with that piece of it. And I'm going to circle back to this once I explain to you the distinction of nervous system regulation. So let's pause there with emotion regulation. We know what it is. We know it's our own thoughts responding to the way we're feeling. It's the interpreter, right? It is interpreting the events based on the experiences we've had in our life and the perspective that we hold at that moment in time. Now, nervous system regulation is different. And I see people sort of use these two terms interchangeably, and they're not the same. So a nervous system that is dysregulated, think of this as a bottom-up problem. It's in the body. So it is a visceral, immediate, automatic response to an event that for one reason or another makes it feel like we're under threat, makes it feel like something isn't safe. So for example, going back to the earlier example of a child who might engage in a blood-curdling scream because the puzzle piece can't fit in the puzzle properly or whatever is happening, that screaming immediately dislodges our nervous system. We feel under threat, even though cognitively we could probably be saying, oh, it's the puzzle again or whatever. Like we could probably walk through it. I'm talking about that initial moment, that moment of tenseness, that moment of rushing over to them, the moment where our body has that response. And you know what I'm talking about, right? Our heart races, we're a little sweaty, where our palms are sweaty. We might have shortness of breath. There are a lot of ways that the body is almost saying to us, alert, alert, something is wrong. Now, nervous system dysregulation, when our nervous system is not regulated, is what's important to note is that for each of us, the imprint on our nervous systems are slightly different. So I can be around a child because I have worked with kids for so many years, and I've worked with kids who do scream or make certain noises, or I'm just so aware and I'm just so I've been in the thick of it for so long that if I hear a child scream like that, I don't have the same nervous system response that somebody else who is not in that space as often as I was would feel. I can get really steady. I'm pretty stable in those moments. I've had enough experience with it that I can steady myself very quickly. I'm not saying I don't get like a sense of scared, but I don't get to a place of panic. That's not what's happening. So for me, when we have a nervous system response, right? It is like alert, alert, something's wrong. You want to go into quick, tangible tools that are going to help regulate your nervous system. And these are all, think of them again, this is a body first approach. We're not getting into the cognitive piece. We are actually calming our body down to communicate to our body and our mind and our nervous system that you are safe. So when we're trying to communicate safety, the first thing we want to think about doing is go to your breath. You're probably getting shortness of breath and any type of a nervous system response. So you want to go into inhaling and exhaling, but keep your exhale longer. So you can do a 4 to 6 count, meaning inhale for 4, and then you're going to exhale for 6. You could do a 3-5 if that feels more doable. The idea is you're starting to put your focus on something that is steady and consistent, and it begins to naturally calm your body down. Your nervous system starts to get back into balance, and it starts to regulate. Beyond that, let's say you're just like can't catch your breath, move away from the trigger. So let's say your child's screaming, but you know they're safe, like they're not hurt, and they're just literally like wrestling that puzzle piece. Step away for a second. It doesn't require urgency. 9 out of 10 times we think everything is urgent and it's really not. So give yourself space between the stimulus or the event and where you are, right? So move away, catch your breath, steady yourself, put both, feel both feet on the ground. These are really helpful practices. I love breath work in moments when things are calm. So you want to be able to really get good at understanding and feeling that breath. Go really deep. Feel your belly expand. Feel your belly contract. Put your hand on your heart for anybody who's watching this. And I'm doing it right now. Put your hand on your belly and feel the rise and feel the fall, right? I think of it as like an ocean wave, like this idea of like this expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting. And you can even hear it in my voice. The minute we start to move into that pattern, I always say like it's almost like this innate wise system in all of us that no matter what position we're in, we all have access to this, to our breathing. It's like what it means to be human. It's what it means to, we all can do it. So being able to know that this is such a divinely placed thing in us that we can all do, and it carries so much power, we have to remember that and really have reverence for that and go back to that. So the reason I'm bringing up the nervous system as slightly different than emotion regulation is because this is how I perceive it. Nervous system, a regulated nervous system is required if we want to regulate our emotions, meaning it's a two-step process. We need both. The way I like to think about it, like in terms of analogies, is like if emotion regulation was sort of the software, think of nervous system regulation as the power source. Meaning if my nervous system is at a 10 and I'm dysregulated and I'm feeling panicky and I'm rushing and my heart's kind of racing and I'm in an anxious state and I'm anticipating all these things going wrong and I'm in what I call the oh no thoughts. Oh no this, oh my gosh this, oh no, right? And like we're in that pattern of thinking. Well, now I can't even get access to my mind or things like empathy or other qualities to help me regulate the emotions that I'm experiencing. So you see, like you want to think of nervous system regulation comes first and it creates space. The space allows us to shift into our capacity to regulate our emotions. If we don't do both, you're going to bypass nervous system regulation. And then what happens is we become reactive. We're not even thinking about our emotions because remember, we can't get there yet. So then we're reactive, we're yelling, we're snapping, because what we're trying to do is we desperately want to adjust and fix the problem outside of us because our nervous system is saying that's the reason we're in trouble. If you get that to stop, we'll calm down. And so it becomes this like outside of me problem. Like if I can fix my kid from crying, then I will calm down. But our emotional state and our emotional disposition cannot be contingent on our child's. Those two things cannot stay attached. We have to anchor. We have to get steady. We have to build the capacity to regulate ourselves so that we can do that for our kids, which in turn helps them de-escalate much faster. I've said this before on other podcasts. It's always a reaction to their reaction that makes things worse, that causes tantrums to escalate, that causes children's behaviors to increase or challenging behaviors to increase. So it's our reaction to the reaction. And the way we adjust that is through getting our nervous system to regulate, stabilize, create space, and now we invite room for those emotions to get regulated. So a lot of times parents will say, like, what do you do in the moment? In the moment, you're working on nervous system regulation. You're studying yourself and you are not engaging in reactive behavior. You are setting a boundary. You are stating the boundary clearly and calmly, confidently, and you are going right back into that nervous system regulation because they're likely not going to like the boundary you're setting, right? So a lot of times I even use the mantra of like, I am safe and so are they. A lot of times, even seeing our kids in duress or stressed out or in struggle or in peril, our nervous system, that very primal, primitive part of our brain is like, alert, something's wrong. Your kid's in trouble. Your kid's having a hard time. Fix it. Like that's sort of what's happening. So we have to sort of intercept that pattern. And then we have to say to ourselves, no, I am safe and so are they. Because we have learned that big emotions, we have learned that crying, screaming, sadness, anger is dangerous and bad based on our own programming and conditioning. So now our nervous system, because it's It's not very sophisticated, in all honesty. It's just really meant to respond and keep us safe in very acute situations. That starts to say to us, alert, something's wrong. Something's wrong with your kid. Do your job. Go get him. Go save him. Go protect him. And so we have to be able to intervene there and go, nope, I am safe and so are they. I am safe and so are they. I'm safe to feel. They're safe to feel. What they're going through is what they need to go through, and I can hold the space for them. So you want to really find ways to anchor that nervous system so you don't shift into reactive patterning. So you want to also look at, so like I mentioned, there's breath work, there's things, these are in the moment body things. These are some things I've suggested to clients that have been helpful that you might also find supportive. Some clients, I will tell them, go over to a sink and run cold water on your hands. Sometimes I'll say just go, especially like if you live in a cold weathered state, if you open a cold window and just or a window with cold air coming in and just let that cold air hit you, even that can start to calm that nervous system down. If you don't, open your freezer, put an ice cube in your hand, do something tactile, do something sensory related. Go onto the balls of your feet and go back down flat-footed, onto the balls of your feet, back down flat-footed. I always say I'm going to make a video of all these strategies and I always end up forgetting, but I promise I will do this in video form so you guys can see me doing it. I do these all the time, but you want to do this as much as you can. Here are things I do for my sensory system outside of hard moments. If there is sunshine, so I live in Michigan, you guys know I'm right outside of Detroit, and we don't get a lot of sunny days in the winter. So today happens to be a really beautiful sunny day. Every chance I can, I am standing in front of my windows like a weirdo, you guys, eyes closed, and I am just letting that sun pour into me. I am taking as many walks as I can. There is something so healthy about letting that sun just hit us, letting it really fill our bodies. There is such a sense of like steadiness in that warmth. So let yourself have that sensory experience. I'm not talking about like 10 minutes. It could be 30 seconds. It's just a small part of your day and you're walking by a window and there's a big beam of sun coming in. Go stand in it. Go stand in it and really feel it. The other thing that I do is I journal. I journal every single day. Cup of coffee in the morning, no emails in the morning, no social media in the morning, ever. I don't even look at my phone unless I have some urgent text from a family member. I'm never doing that. I am completely allowing myself the space and time to empty, to greet the day from a steady place. I'm not rushing. I'm not running, immediately with panicked thoughts. And if I wake up that way, because sometimes we just wake up with this like restlessness, I'm putting pen to paper and I'm just getting it all out. It doesn't even have to make sense. This is unedited. Nobody's meant to see it. It's not for you to even reread or share if you don't want to. It's just a vessel, a way, a process for you to, get rid of some of those thoughts and just really empty out. So these are things that really help our nervous system outside of the moment. For some people, it's movement. You'll never hear me on here telling you go do a HIIT workout or go do this or go do that. But I like to move my body, but in ways that feel good to me, right? So that might mean a gentle yoga class. It might mean a harder yoga class because I really want that feeling. I want to be in motion. I want my heart rate to race. I love cardio. Most people hate cardio. So I know you're probably listening to this and like, what is she saying? But when I engage in good cardio activity, I can detach. And in that detachment, I am able to be creative and I have good ideas that come through and I get these like runner's high happens to me every time I finish. So find the thing that helps you. It could be dancing. It could be jumping on a trampoline. It could be just something so simple and easy. Don't complicate it, but just move your body. Energy has to move. It has to move through us. All of these things help our nervous system get steady. Now let's go to emotion regulation. Now we're steady. We've stabilized. We have created the space. The space allows the emotions to get regulated. Now we reflect. Name the emotion. When my kid screams, I am angry. I can't stand it. It's annoying. Just name it. No judgment. This is where PAR comes in, right? Pausing first. That pause in PAR, that first step in PAR, pause, acknowledge, respond, reflect. That's the nervous system work. That's the disruption. That's the breath. That's the stand there. That's the walk away. That's the get steady. Acknowledge. Now we're creating space. We start to move in some regulatory practices for our emotions. What are you feeling? Frustrated, annoyed, bothered, exhausted, overwhelmed. Why am I always doing this alone? Why don't they freak out at school? Why are they always freaking out for me? Like, just name it, right? And now we move into a response. Gosh, we're 10 times more steady now. Yes, I'm annoyed, but I'm safe and so are they. And maybe they just need this boundary and I'm okay letting them cry because you know what? They're going to see the outcome doesn't change. And the next time I tell them they can't have it, the crying is going to decrease. And then the third time, they might not even cry at all. They might just go, okay. But it's because I'm steady and can hold space and I'm not reacting to the way they're reacting. And then we reflect, what are the stories I'm telling myself about myself in those triggered moments? Let's pattern this. Let's think about what's happening. As we start to pattern, what are we saying to ourselves? You know, it's funny, I work with so many parents of strong-willed kids, and this comes up a lot in my sessions, but you guys, if I took data on this, I think it would be 100%, but almost always a strong-willed child is being parented by a strong-willed parent. You know this. If you're listening to me, you get it. You're probably like, oh my gosh, that's 1,000% accurate. That's why it makes it 10 times harder. So let's unpack what's coming up for us. Why does our child's defiance bring up such frustration in us? Why do we feel like our back is against the wall? Why can't we set a boundary and hold it? Why can't we see our child struggle and feel frustrated? Why do we have to adjust the boundary? Why do we feel like it's just our kid? You know, sit with those things, write those things out and ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need to move through this? The more you commit to a practice of really looking at your emotions without judgment, sitting with them, interrogating them, looking at what's coming up underneath. And I do this a lot in coaching. I do both parent coaching and I do life coaching. I work with so many people, you guys, who don't have kids because these themes exist across our lives. I am deeply intuitive. I think that's why I'm as good at what I do as I am, not out of any kind of a gloating place, but I could connect with kids and now with their parents because I can attune very quickly to what I believe your child is communicating to you. Not through psychic ways, but through my own ability to sense and feel. And because I've worked with so many kids, likely kids just like yours, that I know what they're trying to tell you when they throw a ball across the room, even though they shouldn't, or when they tell you you're the worst mom and you know they don't mean it, but you also don't know how to respond. I can sense very quickly where that child is coming from and what's happening. Our intuition is everything. I've written about this. I've talked about this until I'm blue in the face. It's taken me years, but I call myself intuitive all the time now. And I do it without any kind of, I don't even flinch. It's just the truth. We all are. It's just a matter of like, how much will you trust it and listen to it? And that's what I do in both types of coaching. So again, nervous system regulation, then emotion regulation. The better we get at this, you guys, it's not just like the parenting part that's going to be so remarkable, but you're going to see so many things shift in your life because now you just get to approach things from this embodied, empowered place. You're not in a state of constantly reacting. You are proactive. You are looking at things and you are deciding what deserves my attention, what doesn't. Where do I need support and where can I let that go? How do I show up when this keeps happening? What's sitting there for me? What's this discomfort all about? Why do I tell myself I'm a bad mom based on the way my child's behaving? It's not even true. It's not true. How do I meet my child's emotional and developmental needs? What resources do I need? It's fair. We all have questions. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. And again, because I did say I was going to tie it back to kids. So I'll leave it one more thing on here. But everything I described, first of all of that, if you get really good at doing these things, your children will respond. The way kids get better at managing their emotions is by allowing them to feel their emotions and for them to realize that their big emotions don't change outcomes, don't shift boundaries. They have to feel safe, and the way they feel safe is when we are consistent and predictable in the way that we're showing up. That happens when we can regulate our nervous system, stay steady in the hard moments. When we do that consistently and predictably, think of the difference in terms of how your child's tantrums, moments, dysregulation, fighting, arguing, think of how quickly that starts to shift now. They have somewhere to anchor, they have somewhere to go. So again, it's the same for them. They need to be reminded they're safe. Words don't help them, though, in that moment. They are reminded they're safe by seeing the boundary is being held, by seeing that you're there and you're steady and you're not yelling at them to stop. And you're just staying put and you are holding that boundary and you are not letting them have the outcome that they desire, which is fair. And they are working through that, which is healthy. It's normal. We just have to have them see over time they have what it takes to move through it. They can feel it. They're stronger than the feeling. They can process the feeling and they can come through the other side and be okay. That's how we regulate emotions. It's not in the perfect language. There's a lot of great resources and tools out there that are wonderful. You should use them. But in the moment, that's what we're doing. So I hope that helps you guys. Feel free to leave questions, or you guys can message me or just email me at albiona@theparentingreframe.com. Grab that bundle, you guys. There's so much of what I'm describing is inside that bundle and inside those bonuses. And if you're like, gosh, I just really need to work with you for 12 weeks, then grab a spot on my discovery call and let's chat and let's see if it's a good match and if I can help you. So thank you guys for being here. I hope this helped and I hope you took something away from it. And until next time.